回は私のアメリカ人の友達にちょっと日本のことについて聞いてみてみたいと思います。
はい。
日本のイメージだったりとか、持ってる情報を聞いてみたいと思います。2人とも日本には来たことないです。はい、今日私とジェンが着てる T シャツなんですけど、これ私たちの友達の頭文字で、私がT で大文字になってて、ジェンが G が大文字になってる。みんな自分の名前が大文字になってて好きな色になってるんですよ。
キャロラインが作
ってくれたんだけど、キャロラインは
C
キャロラインはなくしちゃってそうです。
で、マディソンはちょっとね、来れなかったんだよね。
今回来れなかったけど、またいつか会います。
はい。この4人が仲良し4人組だったんだよね。
そう。私が戦闘機みんなを引き連れてました。
リーダーだったんだよね。
Yes, I was the leader. I had to be the leader. And I was very snobby about it. So today we're going to ask them about questions about Japan. So, what is your general image of Japan, first of all?
This is hard because everything I know about Japan I learned from manga in 2nd grade. And on.
So, I did tell you a lot because I'm like, you guys need to know about Japan.
But I think cherry blossoms, sushi, ramen, Japanese curry, so a lot of food, sake. And then I think of kimono, flower arranging, and I think neat and clean.
Also, pretty much everything I know comes from Takako. So for 2005. And then of course there's things you get through media.
Yeah.
And so, I'm cautious because I don't want to bring out all my stereotypes. But I think just very candidly, I think a lot about fishing. Fishing industry.
Yes.
And the importance of living by the sea. I think a lot about very organized. I think a lot about systems and organization. I think a lot about a deep rooted culture, which I've been saying this, I don't really think we have a ton of that in the US, unless you're native. This is we're a pretty new country.
Yes.
And so I think about traditions that go back way longer than our country has been a thing. Yeah, so I think a lot about, I don't know, practicing a skill until you actually nail it. Practicing something until you really have it down right. Apprenticing for a long time.
Yeah.
That's what I think about.
That is so true. I'm so surprised you know about that.
I don't know, I think in the US that's a lot of what comes through. Is oh yeah, the Japanese do it well. You know?
Very specific.
Yeah, we screw it up and they do it really well.
I also would say beautiful art. We studied ink drawings in school. I also think dynasties. And also very old culture.
Yes.
Yeah. Or just refining something until it's exactly right. I don't know, I was in Scotland and we were touring different Scotch distilleries and we were talking about whiskey, and everyone loves Japanese whiskey because there aren't the same rules as with Scotch. They have their own set of rules about that, and so Japanese whiskey is blended and can be blended to perfection in a way that, well, now I'm just dissing Scotch.
It's just a different way.
Yeah. But everyone's oh yeah, it's a Japanese whiskey. It's gonna be really good. I think about cleanliness, you were saying.
Technology, and doing things like transportation. I think very friendly and polite. As a broad generalization.
Consideration of other people's space. I think about
sometimes very rush hour train.
And family oriented.
Oh,
yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think when Takako left in 4th grade, it was because the family wanted to meet again and to be there for your family in Japan.
Yes.
That's something that I associate with.
Wow. I am surprised. Did you guys become more interested in Japan after meeting me? And did you guys is there something you looked up or had more interest in after you met me?
Definitely. I was obsessed with Japan. if we're being honest. Like in like 3rd grade, like when I was young.
Yes.
And also Takako and I used to like eat each other's lunches because she had really cool like Japanese lunch. Like, she had rice balls and nori and pickled things that were hot pink, which I was like super excited about. And she would eat my lunch, which was usually like clam chowder that my mom made.
That was good too. I was like, this is cool. They get to eat from my cans and my cups and they get snacks.
Sandwiches.
Yeah. This is so cool. So we traded each other's lunches, and then her mom started making more lunch so I can have some.
Yes. Also, Takako taught us how to draw like kind of anime like dogs and little people.
Yeah.
And Takako actually, I still have it. She made us like a comic strip about TFGs.
I think you guys made that actually, and then gave it to me when I was leaving. Yeah.
Oh, great.
I was thinking of bringing it too, because you guys made like a whole album full of like pictures and then the comic strips you made at the very end. So I think you guys made that. And I was gonna bring it, but I was like, this is too much. What about you, Jen?
I think yes, absolutely, but I can't pinpoint like going home and looking something up. And I wasn't really doing much of that in the early days. But I was telling Takako, I have a vivid memory of being in elementary school, and we were at her house and we were hanging out, and then her mom called us in for lunch, and she was like, there's soba noodles and this plum thing. And I loved it. And my whole life from that point until yesterday, I was like, what was that? So good. And so, like, I'll go to Asian markets. I mean, I live in Durango, so there's, like, really not a lot of cultural diversity in that way. But if I go to any big city, I'm like, okay, I'm going to the Asian market because I got to find this plum thing. And I have never found it. And then 2 days ago, Takako was like, oh, yeah, it's pickled plum. I'm so excited.
Maybe we should go to an Asian market today and help you find one.
Yeah, honestly.
It's super funny that you remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, also origami. Takako taught us how to make like paper cranes and tree catchers, which is probably not the origami term.
Right.
Like fortune tellers, right? Yeah. And frogs.
Oh yeah, the frogs.
Oh.
Yeah, mostly my mom taught them because I wasn't so good at it. It was so embarrassing because in Japan, everybody knows how to make a paper crane. And I was like, wait, you know it by heart? Like, you don't get like a paper to tell you how to do it? I was so shocked. I was like, can somebody fold mine for me?
Okay, so if you're surprised by our answers, what did you guys think our answers were going to be?
Well, I thought you guys would have more of a broad image. They were more specific than I ever thought they would be. Like, especially like Jen's, like, people need to be like apprentices for a long time. Like, I didn't even know that when I was living here. So, like, when I went to Japan and I saw the culture and I was like, whoa. But I didn't know it when I was living in America, so I was kind of surprised you knew about that.
There was a really popular documentary, Hero Dreams of Sushi, here. It was about a man who like made the same sushi by this restaurant. I feel like that's a little bit it's one thing.
Was it like 10 years to become a sushi chef? You need 10 years of training to become a sushi chef.
What do you need to become a teacher?
You need to get a teacher's license in college, which isn't that difficult. So it's a bit sad in Japan because a lot of people find that as like an alternative. So they go to like job hunting in corporations, and then if that doesn't go well, they'll go, well, I have this little insurance of being a teacher. And it's easier to be a teacher in Japan, which is like,
it's easy here too. Yeah, like I got my teacher's license in a year, which is why I was wondering.
Yeah, I think it takes about a year.
Maybe.
Yeah. And you have to do like a little bit of training and go to schools and like teach for like, I think a week or two.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty similar.
Yeah. have you guys ever heard of any Japanese stereotypes? And were there any funny ones? And what did you think about them?
One thing I'll say is I have learned that some of the media, like some of the movies that I watched growing up, or some of the books that I read, that I thought, or that were advertised as Japanese or good representations of Japanese culture, we now don't watch because they were wrong or they were racist or misconstrued or something like that. So I think I'd be curious to hear, Memoirs of a Geisha was really internationally famous.
Yes.
And people were like, wow, I understand geisha and Japanese culture now. And then looking back, was inaccurate in a lot of ways.
Right.
And, written by someone who's not part of that community.
Right.
Who got a lot of credit for it. And so I think I'm trying to be really mindful of what stereotypes or images I have and whether they actually came from someone like ZooKatsu who knows what she's talking about, or, maybe a movie that was fetishizing it or just kind of inaccurate.
It's really funny because my mom was reading the book Memoirs of the Geisha. She was like, this is a good book.
Recently?
No, when she was living here. But I think she was really happy that it was about Japan.
Yeah, totally. And that's why
it was new. And so while I was living here, it was a small trend. There was The Last Samurai and The Memoirs of Geisha, and there were a few Japanese-based movies, I guess. And to our family, that was kind of cool as well. We're cool representation. Yeah. But yeah, I do understand you too, because when I watch it, I'm I don't think that's right.
In the movie, a lot of the actors aren't Japanese.
Yeah, a lot of them were Chinese or the main character was an American guy.
Not great.
But I think it's part of the culture trying to be more, I guess, representative and understanding for it. I think it was one of the beginnings. It's probably not the best, but it's a good beginning, a starter. I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is so beautiful. One of the things that's great about the internet is that it's much easier to learn from the source or to follow people on YouTube or TikTok who are actually from a place that you want to learn about. Right. It's no longer through a journalist, an American journalist who went to the place and is reporting back through their own lens. You can kind of be more immersed in reality in that way.
I don't know of any funny stereotypes. I would say okay, the problematic piece with stereotyping comes from, I think, just generalizing Asian countries. And that's an issue with stereotyping across the board. We see that with Native Americans. Everyone's Native American, but it's who are they? These are distinct cultures.
Right.
And so I think you see that sometimes with poorly informed people. Is they'll just kind of lump together all Asian countries. At least that's what I've heard a lot of.
Yes, because that happened a lot in living here. I'm sure everybody was so do you speak Chinese? And I'm no. Yeah. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It is.
And I'd be curious to talk about the model minority aspect of that's something people have been talking about a lot lately is Asian racism in the US, and that being something that hasn't been a huge priority while we've talked about other areas of racism. And then there being some violence and some stuff like that, and I think a lot of actors speaking about it, and how movies have, if you were an Asian actor, in the 2000s, always being cast as a taxi driver or a restaurant host or something like that with a really strong accent, even if you didn't have a really strong accent. I think is a stereotype that I've heard people complain about.
It is interesting. I've heard a lot of like second generation Asians like had embarrassment that their parents had accents. And I grew up kind of in a weird family where my mom had a British accent because she grew up in England, and my dad has a Japanese accent. So I never really thought it was like an embarrassment. Like I didn't really have a thought about it. I do think it was distinct when like some kids couldn't understand my dad because his accent was too big. So I mean, in a way I do understand like some people thinking like accents are a thing and it's kind of hard to understand sometimes when you don't get to hear that accent too much. So I think my friends became more accustomed to it. But like kids who meet my dad for the first time are like, what is he saying? And like, and it was really funny because it's more distinct when it's kids, you know? Like parents, maybe some parents didn't understand what he was saying, but they wouldn't like really say it to his face. So I think it is like part of learning a language. Like sometimes accents would like stick with you and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but like some people will not understand you, but like if you keep communicating with them they will. And I guess like it is kind of a good thing that kids get to hear these accents on like television or movies. I don't think it's like great that that's the only thing that Asian Americans get as a role to have accents, but I think it's good to hear like bits of accents, even in like Disney movies, like hearing an English accent or like a Jamaican accent, or so I think that kind of helped me understand more different accents. So I think it could be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Yeah.
Last question. What kind of Japanese words do you know and why do you know?
It's gonna be popping off.
Yeah, you started.
Oh no. See, because like if you started, I could kind of be like, oh yeah. Okay. All right. So you taught me in elementary school. What's this? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh!
Yes! Oh my god, you remember that?
Wow!
That is amazing.
Amazing.
You taught me higher than that, but that's all that.
I'm surprised you remember that though. Wow.
Arigato.
Konnichiwa.
Mm-hmm.
Taking all the good words. Good.
You know, but it's like pretty limited. Like we might stop there.
Well, I was like determined to teach them, but I wasn't a great teacher. Yeah.
So,
Oh my god. No. Oh my god. It's having too much fun.
kudasai. My favorite word, oishi.
Oishii. Oishii.
That's what I like to hear when I'm served something to Yuki. Dozo yurishiku.
Oh.
Let's try a sentence. Yuki wa kakui ito desu.
Good. Thank you.
Arigato.
You said Yuki is a handsome guy.
I was saying he was a cool guy, but handsome works too. Takaku wa yasashi ito desu.
Oh.
Let's see, I know sensei.
Oh.
Right. What else? Bengashi.
Bengoshi.
I don't know. Amerikajin.
Oh.
Canadajin.
Canadajin.
That's probably about it. Ramen. Sushi.
Sushi.
I think you know me.
Baka.
That's one of the
She's
first
making a face at me. That was the first word Takaku taught me. Yeah.
Baka.
I am the four. Sorry.
面白すぎる。
And we learned some other curse words at dinner last night.
Yes.
愉快な仲間たちでした。
Yes. They're funny.
Yeah, funny.
And that was very funny too. Teaching them bad words and thinking we were cool. So thank you guys for being in our video.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's so fun.
So awesome.
So awesome. Yeah.
Say goodbye. Yamen.
Yeah, Jan.
Oh, John is good.
Jan. Jan.